China built a $17 billion airport that looks like a starfish from space, Beijing Daxing International Airport. What you are looking at is not a spaceship. It is not a CGI render from a science fiction movie. It is not an alien structure that appeared overnight in the Chinese desert. What you are looking at is a real, functioning, fully operational airport, and it is the largest airport terminal ever built by any nation in the history of human civilization. It cost $17 billion. It took 40,000 workers building around the clock for 5 years to complete it. It is so massive that walking from one end of the terminal to the other would take you longer than most people spend on their morning commute. And when you look at it from above, from a satellite, from a plane, from any angle high enough to see its full shape, it looks exactly like a giant starfish sitting in the middle of China. This is Beijing Daxing International Airport, and the story of how it was built, why it was built, and what it can do is one of the most extraordinary engineering stories of the 21st century. Why China needed to build the world's biggest airport. By 2018, Beijing Capital International Airport, the older airport that had been serving China's capital for decades, was handling over 100 million passengers every single year. 100 million. That made it the second busiest airport on the planet, just behind Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson in the United States, and it was completely overwhelmed. Flights were delayed constantly. The terminals were at maximum capacity. Passengers were frustrated. Airlines were struggling to get landing slots. And here is the bigger picture. China's aviation market was not slowing down. It was accelerating. According to the International Air Transport Association, China was on track to overtake the United States as the world's largest aviation market by the mid-2020s. By 2037, projections suggested China would be handling 1.6 billion air journeys per year, a billion more than in 2017. Beijing alone, with its 21 million residents and its status as the political and cultural capital of the world's most populous nation, was expected to need airport capacity for 170 million passengers by 2025. Between two airports, it built something so large, so ambitious, and so technically advanced that the rest of the world had no choice but to stop and stare. Section 1. The woman who designed a building the world had never seen before. A single brick was laid. Before a single worker arrived on site, the Chinese government had to answer one question. Who do you hire to design the largest airport terminal in human history? The answer was Zaha Hadid, or more precisely, Zaha Hadid Architects, the firm founded by the legendary Anglo-Iraqi architect who had spent her career building structures that looked like they belonged in the future rather than the present. Zaha Hadid had already designed some of the most iconic buildings in the world: the Guangzhou Opera House in China, the Haydar Aliyev Center in Azerbaijan, the Maxi Museum in Rome, and she was given the biggest commission of her firm's history: design a terminal that could handle 100 million passengers a year, make it efficient, make it futuristic, and make it something China could be proud of for the next century. The result was the Starfish. 5 concourses, 5 arms, radiating outward from a single central hall. The design was not just beautiful, it was mathematically precise. Every single one of those 5 concourses was calculated so that no passenger, arriving at any gate in the entire building, would have to walk more than 8 minutes to reach the central hub. In an airport the size of 97 football pitches, 8 minutes, from any point. That is an engineering achievement that competitors around the world are still trying to replicate. Zaha Hadid passed away in 2016, 3 years before the airport opened. She never saw her greatest work completed. It's Section 2. The numbers that make your brain stop working. The terminal building covers 700,000 square meters. That is 700,000. To put that in context, it is larger than the entire terminal area at London Heathrow, one of the busiest airports in Europe, by more than 15%. The construction of the airport itself cost 120 billion yuan, approximately 17 billion US dollars. If you include the roads, railways, and surrounding infrastructure built to connect it to the city, the total investment rises to 450 billion yuan, the equivalent of 63 billion US dollars. For one airport, at the peak of construction, more than 40,000 workers were on site simultaneously, not over the course of the project. At one time, 40,000 people working in shifts, around the clock, 7 days a week, to meet the deadline. The airport was officially approved for construction in December 2014. It opened its doors in September 2019. That is less than 5 years to build the largest airport terminal in the history of the world. The terminal is designed to eventually handle 100 million passengers per year when it reaches full capacity. By 2025, it was already targeting 72 million passengers annually. The airport sits on 47 square kilometers of land, roughly the size of a small city, and currently has 4 civilian runways, with plans to expand to 7 as demand grows. And then there are the moving walkways. Beijing Daxing has the longest moving walkways in all of China. A small detail that tells you everything about the scale of what was built here. Section 3. The technology inside that makes it like nothing else on Earth but Beijing Daxing is not just big. What separates it from every other airport in the world is what is happening inside it. The entire terminal is equipped with facial recognition technology throughout the check-in and boarding process. Passengers can move from the entrance of the airport through security to their gate and onto their plane without ever showing a physical document to a single human being. Their face is their passport. Their face is their boarding pass. At every checkpoint, cameras verify identity in under 1 second. Customer service robots roam the terminal floors, providing passengers with real-time flight information, directions, and gate updates. These are not decorative robots for photographs. They are functional parts of the airport's service system, reducing the burden on human staff while improving the speed of passenger assistance. The airport was also designed with serious environmental ambitions. Zaha Hadid architects built in a rainwater collection and water management system capable of storing, filtering, and purifying up to 2.7 million cubic meters of water from nearby wetlands, lakes, and streams annually. A centralized heating system recovers excess heat generated by the airport's operations, heat that would otherwise be wasted, and redistributes it to reduce overall energy consumption. The roof of the terminal is designed to maximize natural light throughout the day, reducing the need for artificial lighting even in a building that is open 24 hours a day. This is not just an airport. It is a working model for what 21st century transportation infrastructure can look like when a government decides that the scale of its ambition is limited only by the scale of its engineering. Section 4. What it means for the rest of the world. Beijing Daxing International Airport is not just an airport. It is a statement. It is China saying to its own people and to the rest of the world that the era of China building infrastructure that matches the rest of the world is over. China is now building infrastructure that the rest of the world will spend years trying to match. When the airport opened in September 2019, just 6 days before the 70th anniversary of the People's Republic of China, aviation analysts now project that China will be the world's largest aviation market before the end of this decade. Beijing alone will be one of the top 3 aviation hubs on the planet. And with 2 major international airports, the old Beijing capital and the new Daxing, the city has positioned itself to handle that growth in a way that no other capital city in the world currently can. The question the rest of the world is quietly asking is simple. If this is what China builds when it needs a second airport, what comes next? The starfish that changed what is possible. Beijing Daxing International Airport opened its doors on September 26, 2019. Since then, it has welcomed tens of millions of passengers, earned global architecture awards, and permanently changed the conversation about what airport design can look like. It was designed by a woman who never got to see it finished. It was built by 40,000 workers in less than 5 years. It cost $17 billion and sits on the land of a former wetland that was carefully managed to prevent environmental damage. It processes passengers faster, more efficiently, and more comfortably than almost any other airport on the planet. And from above, it looks exactly like a starfish. China did not build the world's largest airport to be practical. It built it to be impossible. And then, it made it possible anyway. If this video showed you something you had never seen before, and I know it did, subscribe right now. Every single week, we bring you the most mind-blowing, most extraordinary, most jaw-dropping engineering and technology stories from around the world. Drop a comment and tell me, would you want to fly through this airport? I want to know. See you in the next one.